What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Bench. Brandon Carney alongside Madi Kroll. We have more football news and notes for you, as we always do. Madi, anything you want to say to the people off the bat, though, before we dive into some hard-hitting NFL Combine news?
No, I just miss live football. That's about all
Yeah.
I've got.
Wait,
Anything from you? Any new
you're
exciting news?
you're not taking in the XFL? What do you mean you miss live football? We get it every
Listen,
week. Ben DiNucci's the leading passer in the XFL. Is that not enough for you?
apparently not. No, I've switched to basketball and it just does not feed my soul the same.
I feel you. I've mentioned it before on the pod, but I'm such a huge college basketball guy that honestly I am getting so excited for this time of year. Like, it's ramping up, and as many people listening probably know, I worked at ESPN for the 3 years prior to this, and I worked primarily on college basketball. Our busiest time of year was the conference tournament. So it's extremely weird for me knowing that stuff is coming. And one, not only do I not have to worry about it, two, I can actually sit and relax and watch some basketball during the daytime. I cannot wait. I truly can. I think my bracket is actually going to be better than it's ever been because I'm finally going to be able to just watch the teams and not have to worry about making these crazy highlight videos and graphics for ESPN. I'm just doing my own thing finally.
I was just about to say you might have messed up there because now people are going to expect your bracket to pop off. So,
Well, look, here's what I'll say about my bracket the last 2 years. I've picked the champion right each of the last 2 years. Now, whether that's a big accomplishment or not, I don't know. I think they were one seeds. I know it was Kansas and Baylor. I think they were both one seeds, but that's still not always the easiest thing. Both brackets finished in like the 90th, 91st percentile. The problem is that outside of picking the champion right, my brackets have been quite frankly dog shit. The last 2 years, they've been awful. Like, I'm talking not a single other Final Four team right, maybe one other Elite Eight team, but just having the champion is worth so many points that it doesn't matter. So, pick your champion. That's what people. I'll give you some advice. Anybody filling out a bracket this year, focus on what you want your Final Four and champion to be, because that's where the most of the points are made. Like, it's fun to pick those early round upsets, but in general, worry about the teams you really want going all the way, because those games are worth like 80, 160, 320 points, however you have it scored. The early round
just
games,
like
not
it's
so much.
easy. Just pick the winner and nobody will care. It's so easy.
Just pick the winner. Not that difficult. All right, let's get back into some football. And when I say we have hard-hitting combine news, what I really meant is the combine's starting. It's not really major news. You're starting to see stuff trickle out. Bryce Young's not going to be throwing at the combine. Bijan Robinson is going to be at the combine, and then he's also going to be showcasing his skills a few days later at Texas's Pro Day. So he's obviously trying to show his skills any way he can. C.J. Stroud will be throwing at the Pro Day, I believe. So, Maddie, is there anything that you're looking forward to at this combine? Anything that sticks out as it starts here this Tuesday? So when you guys are listening to this podcast, Tuesday.
Bran, you know me. I am ready for Sunday. Sunday is my day. It was designed for me. It's when all the sexy men come out and put on a show. For anyone who's not familiar with the layout of the combine, that is the offensive linemen, the big boys, the ones who aren't going to impress you crazy with the running. But I want to see what they've got, because this offensive lineman class is very athletic, not as athletic as last class, but they're going to be fun to watch. I'm also kind of excited for the tight ends, low-key, just because I feel like we are due for some good tight ends in this league that will be versatile.
Yeah, truthfully,
Not a big class, though.
No,
should throw that out there.
Overall, people are talking about this draft as being not a very deep draft compared to others. Like, it's just not a strong class overall. I mean, I would say I feel like the quarterback class is not bad by any means. Like, it's definitely stronger than last year, so at least we've got that going. But
that's
in terms
not saying much.
Right, that's not saying much at all. And in terms of depth of like the other skill positions, it just may not be as strong. So maybe keep expectations a little low. But look, the combine, I honestly don't tune into much of the combine year in and year out. I feel like a lot of it is just, you can get the clips on Twitter, and it's not anything you need to pay excessive attention to. Like, some guys will pop more than you ever expected, and that might help their draft stock. But in general, this feels like the combine is often just like a way to confuse people and get you off players who are good just because they don't test well or something, or you put too much stock into guys who do end up testing well.
Yeah, this is honestly where we start hearing a lot of the rumors, right? Because everybody who's anybody is in Indy right now, and they are all conversing over drinks and letting things free flow. And so then you start to hear the trickles from that. So the most interesting thing that happens out of the combine is just all the rumors that form after these people meet with each other.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to follow the rumor mill. I think the one thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is Bryce Young's measurements, if and when we do get those, because I want to see if this does anything to his draft stock. You guys may have seen, and we'll talk about the quarterbacks in general here in a sec, but the odds for Anthony Richardson to go number one overall have actually skyrocketed in the last 2 weeks. He started at like plus 10,000. He's up to plus 700. So his odds are still worse right now than Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, but that is a ridiculous jump. And you just wonder if after the combine, that kind of thing, when he measures in as, a big dude who's also crazy athletic, big arm, fast, if GMs are going to convince themselves that this is a better bet than a guy like Bryce Young, who, while he's had some great college success, if he measures in at 5'10", 190, what's going to happen? Because he's been listed by Bama at 6 feet, like 207, I think.
And we all know that's a lie. That's like the guy on Hinge who's saying he's 6 foot. He's 5'9". Let's move on.
It's bad. I mean, look, there's pictures of Bryce next to Stetson Bennett. He's shorter than him. There's pictures of Bryce next to Kyler Murray. They're basically the same exact height, and Bryce is leaner. So
somebody put something up. I think it was Mina Kimes that was next to him, and they're like, "You're tanking his stock." Like,
yeah,
delete the photo.
Yeah, so no, I'm excited to see what he actually measures in at, because if it is, 5'10", 190, what's going to happen? Are these teams going to put themselves through these mental gymnastics to tell them that Bryce Young's not the best quarterback, or what's going to happen?
What's your guess on what he measures in at?
My guess is I do think he's 5'10". I mean, look, if they're measuring height the right way based on the pictures of him with Kyler and him with Stetson, I think he's 5'10". I think the weight, though, I'm seeing all this stuff about he's going to end up having a ton of water weight on him intentionally. And so I think he's going to be like 5'10", 200. And I think the weight might be enough to make teams be okay with him, but it's fake weight. Like that's not what he's strolling out at on game day.
He takes one hard pee and he's dropping about 10 pounds. Yeah,
exactly. You put that man in a sauna and he's immediately he looks like Victor Wembanyama, the French guy, NBA prospect, who just looks like an actual like pretzel stick glued together.
He looks like he could do this, like what you do with a pencil when it starts to wave at you. That's what that looks like.
Just a note on Wembanyama. I did see a really funny tweet that said that first Giannis shoulder to the chest is going to feel like a shotgun blast. I'm just like, yeah, dude's got to put on some weight. I think Bryce Young's got to put on some weight too. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to what happens with Bryce at the combine and all these other quarterbacks. But look, there's been a lot of talk about these quarterbacks and what order they should go in and what teams should take them. So I just wanted to get our thoughts down on paper, on recording, whatever, who the top 5 quarterbacks are in this draft. So Maddie, I mean, we can alternate. I don't really think we need to count it down from 5 to 1. We can just kind of go from 1 to 5. It's no real secret, I think, who's going to be near the top of our ranking. So for me, number 1, I'm still going with Bryce Young. As much as I'm going to make fun of him here, like all the success that he's had in college, he has everything you want except for the size, right? And for me, I'm okay with taking that quote unquote risk. I mean, I feel like every other player has so much more risk. I want the guy that's shown that he can play a high level of football. He's shown it for 2 years. He's got the accuracy. He's got the footwork. He's got just the mental aptitude for the game. I'm taking him number 1, and I feel like if anybody else goes number 1, it seems like overthinking to me.
I agree with that 100%. That's not even, I think that people can say what they want, but I think everybody's really high on Bryce Young right now. I think where you start getting the mix up is when you start going 2 and 3.
So who do you have at your number 2?
Anthony Richardson from Florida.
Okay. So
I knew that we were probably going to go back and forth on that one. For the sole reason that I think that he would be able to step in and fit multiple offenses. He's not going to be that guy that's going to come show out his rookie year, right? I don't expect that from him. If he can land somewhere where there's a team that knows it's an investment and they're going to get behind him 100%, then he's golden. And I know that that's where a lot of the controversy came up with, is people just said, like if he goes at 2, that's not going to happen and he's going to tank. But I don't know. I don't think that. I think that he's going to be able to fit in multiple offenses. And I'm kind of excited to see where he goes. But I think he definitely goes at 2.
Well, here's the thing for me with Anthony Richardson. So we all know the upside. I mean, he's a quick dude. He can run. He's got one of the biggest arms in the draft as well. So it's really the total package in terms of the skill set that he has. It's just these random pockets of bad decision making and terrible accuracy.
And he's also not quick with getting the ball out. Just to your point.
Sure. So those are the things that need to be cleaned up with him, and I think that those are the reasons why I would put C.J. Stroud at 2, just because the accuracy and stuff like that are not major concerns. But I also think everybody looking at the top 5 quarterbacks in this draft knows that Richardson's ceiling is obviously the highest. It's no question the highest. It's just the risk versus the reward. My thing with Richardson is, I would love to see him end up with the Colts just because of Shane Steichen having that experience with Jalen Hurts. And I'm worried about the team being able to develop him depending on where he goes. Because, I don't know if Richardson goes to the Texans, like how I'm going to feel about that. Yeah, DeMeco Ryans I'm optimistic for. I hope he can be a successful head coach. But you've got a guy, first-time head coach, and this super, super raw quarterback. I just don't know if it's a good mesh. So I'm not sure. Then you also have this coming in too that I found out today. C.J. Stroud's agent is Deshaun Watson's agent. So the likelihood that Stroud goes to the Texans may not actually be that high.
That was where I was going to get to as well.
Yeah. So
athletes first, don't play around.
Yeah. So it's tough. I think, look, mocking where the quarterbacks are going to go and ranking the quarterbacks might be two different things.
I agree with that. We should stick to ranking then.
Yeah, so for me, I think ranking-wise, I'd go Young, Stroud, and then I'll just give it away. I would put Richardson at 3. I like Richardson better than I like Levis. I just think the upside is higher.
If we're going ranking, I would agree with that just because we've seen more out of CJ, and so it's more of a given on what we are going to receive from him. It's less of a ceiling, but you at least know what you're getting, what you're going to bring home. So I agree with that. And who did you say it for?
I put Levis at 4. I mean, look, I'm not in love with Will Levis, but it seems to me like there is a clear sort of top 4 at quarterbacks here, and honestly, the rumors are gonna shuffle them all completely. I've seen every single one of these 4 guys be mocked at number 1 in some place or another, including Will Levis. So I think I've got him at 4. 5 is where it gets a little more confusing for me. But who do you have at your 4?
At 4.
Yeah, so you've got Young, Stroud, Richardson, or Young, Richardson, Stroud, however you want to look at it. Top 3.
Levis is my 4.
Okay.
5, I have Hooker. Okay. And I know a lot of people don't like that because of the injury. Was it ACL or MCL? I think it's ACL. One of those. He fucked up his knee. But anyways,
easiest way to say it.
Yeah, I know that he was surrounded with incredible talent, but that kid can get the ball out. He's efficient, and that's 100% the toughest battle when you step into the NFL is learning how to get that ball out quicker and trusting your line. He's already got that. Yeah. So 100% he's going to be successful in the league. I think that you have to include him in the top 5.
Yeah, I would agree. I think his success in college, too, the way he flashed with Tennessee this year definitely puts him at my number 5 as well. The one guy that I thought about putting here, I haven't watched enough of him. I've just been kind of reading about him and seeing these reviews. Jake Haener out of Fresno State.
That took me by surprise. Wow,
really?
Okay.
Did it?
I'm ready. Yes.
Yeah, Jake Haener out of Fresno State, it just, what I've seen of him is that he's got a big arm, fast processor, and is just kind of going by the wayside because he played for Fresno State. And my UConn Huskies actually played Fresno this year. Jake was out for that game, and every Fresno State fan was like, if we had Jake, we would have smoked you guys. I'm like, well, yeah, probably, but that's not really the point. So I'm just keeping my eye on him. He seems like a lower key sleeper quarterback for me, and I'll be curious to see where he lands, assuming it's on day 3.
I need to look more into him because I haven't watched a whole lot of his film, to be honest with you. He wasn't even in my top 10.
Oh, really? Okay. So
so I need to check him out more.
I'm also going to look more into him just because this is just kind of stuff that I'm hearing and, people I trust talking about their opinions of him. So I want to look more into him myself, just a guy I'm kind of keeping my eye on for now. And in terms of this draft and where quarterbacks are going to go, a lot of this is going to hinge on the Bears and what they do with their pick. So it came out today, to the surprise of hopefully no one, especially not me, that the Bears are leaning toward trading this number 1 pick. To me, this was the obvious decision. We talked about, whether they were going to keep Fields or not. And I just felt like you had 2 options. You were either going to keep Justin Fields and trade this pick for a bunch of assets, which it could be a lot of assets, and that's how they're heading. Or their other option was to, get rid of Fields and take a quarterback here and kind of start over. I don't know. I don't think beggars should be choosers here when it comes to the Bears. The Bears have found themselves a quarterback that has flashed in a way that they haven't had a quarterback flash in.
They lucked into a quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, maybe ever. Like, they've been looking for this quarterback forever. as much as it's exciting to think about what Bryce Young could be or what CJ Stroud could be, I don't think it's worth blowing up what you have right now when Fields has already shown that he can have these elite traits and be a really, really good football player. He just needs to work on the accuracy in the pass game, and getting him some weapons is going to help that immensely. So, and that's what they're going to be in position to do if they trade this pick.
Absolutely. You also have to look at, he was in such a shitty situation last year. I mean, why would you not want to build around the kid who came out and proved himself in the worst situation possible as a rookie coming into the NFL? I just don't see why they wouldn't trade him away. It's almost dumb. Like you need weapons. They need a lot of things. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They are basically in a rebuild minus a quarterback. So you have your quarterback. Let's build around him. Like do what you can to make the most.
Yeah, and we've talked about too how the Bears have so much cap room, but this free agency class is kind of weak. Where do you have to make your bread? Then you have to do it in the draft. That's the only place that you're going to find potential future star players. It's not really going to happen in free agency right now. There's not those guys not a ton of those guys who are instant difference makers. I mean, yeah, you can go out and sign Jacoby Myers for $16 million a year if you want. What is that really doing for Justin Fields? I love Jacoby. I think he's a great receiver, but you trot into next season with a receiving core of Jacoby Myers, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool. You really feel good about yourselves? Probably not. So they need to parlay this pick into, I don't know what they're going to get for it. If it's going to be a couple of firsts or just a bunch of depth in this draft, like a couple of seconds, thirds, plus the first that they would obviously receive in return. I'm not sure, but I think this is definitely the right move, and the Bears have, I don't know if they came to their senses. I don't know how strong they were ever considering trading Fields, but I'm glad that they are standing pat and keeping Justin Fields.
I agree. I just hope the Bears don't Bears the draft,
Yeah, that's a valid concern as well. I mean, look, Velus Jones Jr. might be a future All-Pro. You never know. He's 45 years old, but he could be an All-Pro. All right, moving on in the NFL rumor world. Jalen Ramsey is expected to be on the trade block from the Rams. And now ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reporting the first two teams to be likely partners in this trade, the Lions and the Raiders. Do you feel like those are good fits, Madi?
Yes, I do. I honestly, if I were Jalen, I'd prefer to go to the Lions. And I know that people think that that's crazy, but I just think that team's up and coming. The Raiders have potential. It's just they have a few more hurdles to get over. But 100% I believe this. The Rams are having terrible cap issues. We don't know what's happening with their quarterback. We don't know what's happening with their, third string quarterback that Baker was last year? We just don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on with their organization. We don't really know if their coach is coming back. And I think that Jalen Ramsey is prime meat to trade. Just trade him away. And I don't know. I kind of like the Lions for him, though. What about you?
Oh, I love the Lions fit. I mean, the Lions, with how strong they came on last year, and one of their only real weaknesses being inconsistent play in the secondary and on defense in general, I think Jalen Ramsey is potentially a huge stopgap in there and can make this team super, super competitive when I think they're honestly already on track to be super competitive, but this is potentially a major difference maker. If Jalen Ramsey goes to the Lions, and if the Lions can piece together a few things in free agency and the draft, I'm not even talking major moves, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be the favorites to win the NFC North next year.
I don't know the Lions cap space. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not. I don't recall them being particularly strapped or particularly having an excess of cap space. I don't, because I generally look at like the top and the bottom. I could be wrong, but
no, you're right. I think they're close
somewhere
to the
middle of the pack. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they have the potential to make things work. That team just has a lot of heart, and I feel like Jalen Ramsey would be the missing piece defensively that they need just to take it to the next level. Because that defense wasn't bad. It's just it was spotty. Sometimes they would show up and sometimes they wouldn't.
Right, and Jalen Ramsey can be a guy to not only increase the talent level to mitigate that spottiness, but also be a leader that can hopefully mitigate that spottiness. Because, overall, I just think this team is headed for potentially something special. I mean, offensively, they are as fun to watch as any team in the league. I've said it before, I'm excited for Jamison Williams to finally break out next year, see what they can do when they unleash him. But in general, the Lions would not be surprised if they were... I don't know if they'll be favorites to win the NFC North, but I'll probably be picking them to win the NFC North, maybe either way, but especially if they get Jalen Ramsey.
If they get Jalen Ramsey, you almost have to.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to a little bit more of, I guess, somber news. It's not, devastatingly sad, but it is really unfortunate with Byron Jones. I'm hoping that he recovers. But look, with the Combine coming up, The NFL had tweeted about Byron Jones. He put on an absolute show at the Combine a few years ago. I believe it was 2016. Byron Jones, UConn alum, had the pleasure of interviewing him as well while I was in college.
Oh, that's
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, really, really cool, actually. One of the first things that made me feel like a real professional in this business, So, no, really nice guy. I interviewed him at a UConn SMU game after he had already been drafted by the Cowboys, so he was in the area at SMU just checking out his old team. But Byron Jones, not necessarily retiring, but he had this to say. He quoted the tweet about the Combine, and let me see if I can pull it up here. So Byron said, "Much has changed in 8 years. Today I can't run or jump because of my injuries sustained playing this game. Do not take the pills they give you. Do not take the injections they give you. If you absolutely must, consult an outside doctor to learn the long-term implications." So this is kind of the most scathing indictment of team doctors and how the NFL handles injuries that I can remember from an active player at the very least. I mean, for a guy to say, the tweet he quoted was him. For anybody that doesn't remember, Byron Jones had a record long jump at the Combine, and it was what really projected him to being, I think he was a first round draft pick. I can tell you as a UConn guy who was there at the time, he was not projected to really do much in the draft at all. Maybe get picked mid rounds, but this kind of launched him into just the scene and being a legitimate prospect. So he went first round, I'm fairly certain. And now to see that he can't even run or jump is crazy and very, very sad. And you just hope that he can get back to a point where he at least has a decent quality of life. One of the things that people were saying when he first tweeted this was that it was a retirement announcement. I mean, his follow-up tweet to this is, it was an honor and privilege to play in the NFL, but it came at a regrettable cost. So people are like, he's retiring. I guess he's not officially retiring yet, but that reason is mainly just so he can get paid.
It's contractual.
Whatever he's
Yeah,
still owed.
I was going to say,
so
he's still owed money, so he's not going to retire until he can.
Yeah, so retiring is the wrong terminology, I suppose, but for him to say it was an honor and privilege to play in the NFL and it came at a regrettable cost and saying that he can't run or jump, he's done in the NFL. And that's really sad. This is a guy that could have still been in his prime if not for these injuries, and apparently if not for how these injuries were handled. So I just wanted to, shine a little light on that, and just, I guess maybe this is something that we need to be thinking about more as fans and media, just not only how rough of a game this is, that guys are suffering injuries all the time. We know that part, but how maybe the NFL or certain teams at the very least are handling these injuries. Hopefully they're not just, throwing pills and injections at these guys without knowing exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the way the NFLPA handles that, because typically any comment like that should go through them. So it will be interesting to see. He'll probably also get hit with a fine.
Yeah, potentially. But look, definitely a bad look for the NFL. Byron is not a guy. I'm not gonna pretend I know everything about the guy just because I interviewed him once and went to the same college. But he's not really a guy to just kind of make stuff up for attention.
No.
This is a very legit thing, in my opinion. So
I mean, we watched the Super Bowl winning quarterback this year go through a terrible high ankle sprain and then 2 weeks later playing the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you got an injection before the game, and that's the way you're able to bounce back.
Right.
It's not something that we as fans don't know, but when it's in your face like that and you read the player's done before his time, it's hard to digest.
Yeah, so definitely very sad. As a UConn guy, it did hit me because, I mean, he was the highlight when I was at UConn. It wasn't that he was making all these crazy plays for UConn football on the field all the time. It was just he was a good coverage guy. But when this Combine happened, everyone at UConn was freaking out. We're like, oh, man, we have a football guy. Like, finally, somebody who's making some headlines. He did UConn very proud. So Byron, unfortunately, it seems like his career is coming to an end quicker than we would have liked, than he would have liked. But Byron, you still did UConn proud. I can promise you that. And you still had a career to be proud of. So, made that money as well. Just sucks that it's coming to an end. Moving on here, we have some more coaching hires to talk about. So I
can't wait for these.
This is fun. Matt Nagy named Chiefs offensive coordinator. Blast from the past with Eric Bieniemy heading on to Washington. The Chiefs have named Matt Nagy the OC. He was their OC in 2016 and 17 with Alex Smith. And then after what we all know is an incredibly failed experiment with the Chicago Bears outside of a nice little first year where I actually think he won Coach of the Year. But we don't have to talk about that. Outside of a mostly failed experiment with the Bears, he ended up returning to the Chiefs in 2021 as quarterbacks coach / senior offensive assistant. Now he's the OC. Maddie, how do you feel about Matt Nagy's return to the OC position in Kansas City?
It was kind of an eye roll for me. What was crazy is all of these Chiefs fans, they kill me. And you guys are going to come after me on Twitter. I'm well aware. I'm putting this out there, expecting it. So I'll see you guys in my DMs. But it's crazy to me that everybody was going off on how Eric Bieniemy didn't actually deserve a head coaching job because he wasn't play calling. He wasn't involved in the actual throwing the ball of the schemes type play calling, which is wild. That's a whole argument within itself. But then those same people are going crazy over Matt Nagy coming back. And I'm like, what's the difference? If the OC doesn't even play call, like, who cares? Like, why are we praising Matt Nagy? I'm not a fan of Matt Nagy just because of what happened in Chicago. But then again, we know the offensive coordinator and head coach, really any coordinator position and head coach aren't the same. But I think that either way, this is Andy Reid's game. So I think that it's just another name to put it on a roster.
That's exactly what I was getting at. I think some people may be worried about Matt Nagy being named OC because he's still kind of got this stink attached to him from what he did in Chicago. But it doesn't matter who the Chiefs OC is. Like, yeah, as long as you have NFL experience, and especially a guy who's been in this system before. I will say it's an interesting sort of nugget that he's never been an OC for a Patrick Mahomes led Chiefs team before. He was only the OC when Alex Smith was still around, so that'll be interesting to follow. But ultimately, I don't think it leads to much, and it's just another name.
He's just going to ride the train.
Andy Reid's steering this ship. Matt Nagy can bring the hors d'oeuvres around to everyone, I guess. I don't know, whatever he's going to do, because I don't imagine it's going to be much. Other side of the ball, same division. The Broncos hired Vance Joseph as their defensive coordinator, and all I can say, and again, I feel like I come across as a Broncos fan on this show a lot. I'm not. But all I can say is thank God. Because the other names that they were considering, Rex Ryan, TV analyst, hasn't coached for 7 years, and when he last did, it wasn't very successful. And Matt Patricia, guys.
Dun,
no.
dun, dun.
Matt Patricia cannot have any sort of title of significance in the NFL this year. I hope the man gets a job just from a humanity standpoint. I'm sure there's something he can do in the NFL. But if anybody hired this man as a coordinator on either side of the ball, because apparently he can try and do both, you're asking for pain and suffering. So Vance Joseph, I think easily the best choice possible here.
You know what I feel like we should do with rehabbing coaches? Instead of sending them back to Alabama to hit the coaches rehab, we should make them go be analysts on TV and make them deal with the fans directly. And then if they still want to go back after that, then we give them a pass. But they have to serve a year sentence as being an analyst on television and just having to face the public every day.
I love that personally. I mean,
I knew you would.
It would be interesting because, you assume not all these coaches will have a viable TV presence, but at the same time, if you could try and see these guys, if you can test these guys and see if they can break down the game in a way that like a Dan Orlovsky can, it'd be really interesting because if they can't, you're going to be like, well, why do you have a job? Like,
he's gone.
Yeah, like get him out of here. So also a fun note on that, Dan Orlovsky revealed on the Pat McAfee show today that he was apparently close to a coaching gig with the Panthers this year. So
I didn't see that. I missed that.
They were interviewing Dan and they were asking him about with just how popular he's become with his game breakdowns and such, if teams are reaching out to him for coaching gigs. And he's like, I've had teams talk to me, and he actually admitted that he was close with the Panthers, which isn't surprising because
it's not surprising at all.
No, they ended up bringing in Josh McCown as the quarterback's coach. And I mean, Josh McCown, Dan Orlovsky, kind of interchangeable in terms of guys who understand the position and are personable and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised that he was one of the guys that they talked to before either picking McCown or before Orlovsky bowed out of the race. But no, I think Orlovsky will probably end up being a coach at some point. That's a perfect example of analyst. You see he knows what he's talking about. So you're like, I want to see him on a sideline somewhere, be it college or the NFL, just to see if it can be put into action and if he can do things other than run out the back of the end zone. I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to. Look. Again, UConn guy, I'm trying to be nice. I'm sorry.
Safety talk.
I'm sorry. UConn guy, I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't mean it. But no, Vance Joseph as the Broncos defensive coordinator, great move for them. I think they put together a coaching staff here that is primed to maybe get the Broncos out of the basement, I'm hoping, at the very least. I mean, let's ride. I made the Sean Payton Coach of the Year prediction last week. I'm sticking by it until it's obvious that I shouldn't. So we'll see how long that takes. Next, our favorite story of the entire offseason. Goodbye, darkness, my old friend. Aaron Rodgers has emerged from his darkness retreat. I think I even mentioned it on the pod last week. I thought this was still a few weeks out. I didn't realize that he had already been in it, I believe, when we were recording last week. But he was in it, and now he's out.
The clips were so ridiculous. I thought somebody was literally making fun of him on like TikTok that it wasn't real. And then I just kept thinking, this can't be real. This is almost embarrassing. And I was like, no, me and Brandon already talked about it. It's a few weeks out. So then I had to do my research, and I was like, wow, that's awful.
Yeah. For those of you viewing this podcast visually, you can see the hut here that Rodgers stayed in. If you haven't, just Google it. It's really a sight to see. It looks like somewhere that the Keebler elves would live. So it's not... God. I don't understand. It just feels like such a showy thing. Just again,
it's a pick-me girl move
for attention. Like I'm surprised he didn't do like an MTV Cribs in his darkness retreat little hut, because it's really a sight to see. I didn't expect it to look like that. I figured it would be a normal building, that it was just dark. I didn't think he'd actually be like going underground. It seems like
I had no expectations, none.
It's not just like,
but
I don't
somehow
even know.
That met my expectations,
right? Somehow that fit perfectly either
yeah.
way. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I don't think we have much else to say right now, but look,
no.
he came out of the darkness retreat though, so we should be getting a decision here at some point.
But like the thing is we're not going to get a decision until he has to. It's Aaron Rodgers. So that's why I was like, I'm not even going to play into this whole darkness retreat thing, because we all know that he's not going to announce what he's going to do until he absolutely has to. Whether he likes the Packers this offseason or not, he's going to do the Aaron Rodgers thing and not make the decision.
Yeah,
he's going to make the decision and not tell anybody. It's just what he does.
His darkness retreat epiphany was that he's going to continue to be a diva and lead everyone on for as long as possible, apparently. Because look, I was personally expecting, like the opening scene to, I don't know why this just came to mind, I think looking at that picture, the opening scene to Shrek where he like kicks open the porta potty. The porta potty one kind of looks like that door. I was expecting Rodgers to like kick it open, be like, I've made my choice, and then just tell everybody. Now it's like, all right, dude, your stupid retreat is over with. What are you doing? So just decide. We're tired of you looming over the offseason every single year.
At this point, do you just try to gaslight Rodgers if you're the Packers? Do you just try to come out and say, hey, listen, like whether you say or not, we're going with Love, so don't worry about your decision. You can just let us know when it's convenient for you. And I would too. Like, let Jordan Love go into this offseason knowing the position's his, and who cares about Rodgers, because he's not going to be there next year, whether he's there this year or not.
Yeah, and then honestly, that might light a fire under Rodgers anyway. Like they don't want me. I'll show them. I'm coming back, and he wins another MVP, whatever. Something to motivate Rodgers, because he's just a weird dude. I don't really have much else to say about it. Speaking of weird quarterbacks, Russell Wilson made quite a few headlines this season for just being a really weird dude, and now this coming out, not necessarily weird, but also it is on brand for Russell Wilson's sort of heel turn that he's had this season. Russell Wilson, The Athletic reported that he wanted Pete Carroll fired, and actually that it was in an effort to get them to eventually hire Sean Payton. So I guess Russell Wilson kind of got what he wanted eventually. He just had to go a few miles east or southeast to do it. But this is not, again, it's not a good look for Russ. Russ, to his credit, denied it and said, I never tried to get anybody fired. Oh, here's the exact tweet. I love Pete and he was a father figure to me, and John believed in me and drafted me as well. I never wanted them fired. All any of us wanted was to win. I'll always have respect for them and love for Seattle. To me, this is where it gets murky a little bit, but it's also just where it could be about the wording of how he did this, right? How he tried to get them fired. He's saying he's trying to tell us that, no, I didn't ever go into anybody's office and say, fire Pete Carroll. But there's a lot of things that you can say and do and kind of just try and push somebody out. And I feel like that is probably what happened. The Russ versus Pete Carroll thing, everybody knew there was some sort of animosity there, or at the very least there was some sort of, you're going to have to pick one eventually if you're the Seahawks. And so that wasn't a secret. And this isn't surprising to me that he was trying to convince the Seahawks to pick him. That's really all it means.
Yeah, to me, this is just like the situation when you're in a relationship and you give somebody an ultimatum and they break up with you and you say, well, I didn't break up with them. Well, I mean, you ignited it. I think when reports like these come out, did you actually read the article from The Athletic?
I did not
Because
read the full
it
article,
was
no.
it was so detailed that I was like, there's no way that this is completely false. I think that what you said is exactly what happened. I think that in a roundabout way, he just said, "Hey, look, if you want me to stay, like they've got to go." And I don't think that it was out of spite for them. I think that it was out of trying to save his own rear,
Mm,
because you have to remember last year he went into the season saying like it was leaked that he would want to be traded to a certain amount or like certain teams if he was traded. But then he came back and said, I never said I wanted to be traded. I just gave you a list of ideal teams if
yeah.
I was. Like it's just that back and forth that you get from him. And so it makes it hard to trust him. But I think that it was just something along the lines of like he was trying to save himself and didn't want to take responsibility for it. And then the whole thing with Sean Payton cracks me up because I'm just like, you're not even his type of quarterback. Like
Yeah.
leading up to this year, the whole reason why, or I guess you could consider him at Seattle. The whole reason that made you great was being able to make plays on the fly. Like you were a second reaction quarterback. Sean Payton likes guys that are like very design throwers. He wants the darts that are going in. He wants it to be precise and clean and quick. And that's not Russ's style of play. So for me, this whole thing is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But that little tidbit of it was really interesting when that came to be reported, because I was like, you're not his type of quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, it makes you wonder just how much Pete and him were butting heads, that if he's
Yeah.
advocating for a coach that is maybe not one that can take advantage of his strengths the best way. We're going to find out if that's true or not this upcoming season, and I think it's probably the most interesting storyline in the NFL as we head into next year. Maybe that's just my Denver bias talking, but how these guys are going to interact is going to be fascinating, that's for sure. I'm curious how long it takes till they get till Peyton gets the Saints on the phone to ask for Taysom Hill back.
I have a question for you. Do you think this is a boom or bust year for us with a new coach coming in?
Yeah, I
Me
do.
too.
I just think the only reason I hesitated to say is because you look at the contract and it's like, okay, what do they do with him even if he has another terrible year? But at a certain point, it's sunk cost, right? Like you're just going to go get another quarterback and keep Russ as the most ridiculously high paid backup in the league, or you end up trading him somewhere after, this year of his contract burns away, and you can maybe pay some of his contract or even most of his contract to trade him away for something. But yeah, I think you can't have 2 straight years looking that bad and recover from it. We just saw Carson Wentz get cut today. It's heading very much on the Carson Wentz train for different reasons. I mean, Carson Wentz is a good bit younger than Russell Wilson, I believe, but it's sort of a similar path. And like you have these consecutive awful seasons. We can't ignore it anymore. It's not a fluke.
Especially with new ownership, right? They didn't draw up that contract, so they inherited it, and they are obviously expecting a win at some point. And I think that Sean's going to for sure throw Russ under the bus if it comes to him or Russ.
Absolutely. So I have no idea what quarterback would be in the cards at that point, what they're going to do, whether it's next year's draft or, again, just Taysom Hill. I'm sure he's probably got him on speed dial, so he can't be that hard to reach. Let's see. More quarterback contract news. So kind of ties into Russell Wilson's excessively large contract. Lamar Jackson reportedly turned down a 5-year, $250 million deal because it only had $133 million guaranteed. This, I believe we've seen this report in the past, but it was kind of concretely confirmed this past week. So I wanted to touch on it again and just see what we think Lamar is going to do. Lamar wants to exceed Deshaun Watson's $230 million guaranteed. Here's my issue with this. I made a video about this on Heavy's TikTok account, and I am just like, I don't understand why we all have to be a slave to this Deshaun Watson contract and act like this is the standard. Like, I think it's silly for quarterbacks to be any quarterback to be asking for that much when the team that obliged to a quarterback to ask for that much was the Cleveland Browns, the dumbest organization maybe in professional sports. Like, why does that have to be the standard? I feel like all other 31 teams in the NFL should just be like, those Browns, they're pretty stupid, right? Like, we don't have to do what they did. Like, our players shouldn't be asking for that, right? Like, we'll still pay him well, but that is like a lot. Lamar Jackson turned down $133 million guaranteed. That would have been the second most in the NFL, above Russell Wilson, above Kyler Murray. And those like the fact that the second most guaranteed money for a quarterback in the NFL is Russell Wilson's 124, which for all intents and purposes is half of what Deshaun Watson got. It just shows you how ridiculous the Deshaun contract is. I don't understand why it has to be the standard.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So
I wrote
yeah,
on Twitter the other day. I was like, I want an athlete's first agent to draw up my prenup because like
right,
if I ever get divorced, I'm getting like his parents' house too if they do
exactly.
that. Um no, I with this, I really just wish that Lamar had some type of spokesperson because I want to know why. Like, what is it that you actually want? Is the guaranteed money because you are planning on being utilized in a different way? Like, have you been talking to the coaches about that? Are you worried that the way they want to utilize you is going to get you injured more? Because
Hmm.
obviously we saw him get injured last year. Like, I just don't understand. Like, what is that big of and like why are you putting that big of an importance on the guaranteed money? Because it's not like they weren't offering him enough. Like that's clearly enough. So what's the
Hmm.
hold back? Do you want out of Baltimore? Is that what we're talking about? Do you want to go
Right.
somewhere different and you just don't want to say that? Like that's what I just don't really understand what's happening because what we're going to get into now is like he's basically going to be a free agent in a couple years.
Hmm.
No, like I just don't understand what you're getting out of it. I don't understand the thought process of it.
Yeah, I don't understand either. And it's just if the Ravens do cave and give him, a fully guaranteed, that's what he wants, fully guaranteed $250 million contract.
Hmm.
Insane. If they do cave and give him that, then you've got his contract on the books, you've got Deshaun Watson's contract, and then is every quarterback from this point forward going to be getting that much guaranteed? It is going
Hmm.
to hamstring these teams, like with these
Yeah.
quarterbacks, especially the ones that, I mean, as of right now, Deshaun Watson doesn't deserve it either with his play on the field, but
No.
you're going to get these quarterbacks like Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins or players like that who are asking for that much guaranteed. And it's like, it's just a crazy slope to go down.
Now, I wonder if he would sign something if they put contingencies in there.
Mm-hmm.
This will be fully guaranteed if you make it to the postseason every year.
Right.
Maybe we talk about that. Maybe it's worth that because that's an incentive. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
no, I don't think we can keep setting these crazy high precedents and then guys just not play well like Deshaun because
Yeah.
it impacts the whole team, especially when you talk about guys like Tom Brady, even Patrick Mahomes taking less money so that they can have better guys around them so that they can go win Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you win Super Bowls and you're going to get guaranteed money with like advertising deals afterwards. It's just you almost have to just bite the bullet. That's why I feel like there's something more going on than just the money part of it.
Yeah, it's why I think you're seeing all these reports of like anything can happen with Lamar Jackson right now. Like
Yeah.
trade is not off the table by any means. Him going back to Baltimore is not off the table. It's just a matter of what is it going to take. Like, can they find a place where they meet somewhere in the middle on this guaranteed money? Can 180 get it done? 190? I mean, that's still going to be $70 million more than the second most guaranteed money in the league. Again, Russell Wilson contract. Is that not enough? Is that really going to get declined? So it's one thing to reset the market for the quarterbacks in terms of average annual value. We understand how this works. Basically, the most recently paid star quarterback is always going to be the highest paid one, even if they're not the best quarterback. And Lamar fits that mold. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But when you get into the guaranteed money, it just becomes a lot messier. So
Yeah.
I don't know what happens with Lamar. That is going to be the most interesting storyline, I think, of the offseason. You got the Broncos during the season. I think this is the one of the offseason that everyone's going to have their eyes on because if Lamar Jackson is in a different uniform week one, we're all going to be a little wide-eyed, I think. It's going to be very jarring.
Stranger things have happened though.
They absolutely have. And then some more quarterback contract news. This one is funny to me as well. So we talked about Daniel Jones asking for $45 million. We have still not gotten confirmation on anything if this was true or not true. We probably never will. Welcome to the offseason. But Daniel Jones reportedly never asked for $45 million. And the word on the street is that it may have been leaked by his old agency, CAA. And it was basically to make him look bad.
Mm.
Makes sense.
I mean, it didn't make him look bad though. His name was in everybody's mouth. I
It
mean,
was.
people was like, "You're crazy," but all he had to do was have his agency come back and back him and say, "Nah, that didn't happen," and now you just have given this man a full week of press.
Yeah, I think it was weird if the goal was to make him look bad. Because, I mean, yeah, we're going to be talking about how he's crazy and illogical and doesn't know his own worth. But also, we all know how contracts work. You're going to try and get as much as you think you can.
Absolutely.
So we're not blaming him for that. It's just a matter of we were like, you're never going to get that, which is why we were kind of all poking fun at him. But no,
Yeah.
this was a weird one. I feel like I do believe that he never actually asked for it just because it did sound so insane, and I'm glad we got some sort of report to the contrary that he never asked for it. So hopefully that is the truth. Daniel Jones can stick around in New York for something in the 30s, most likely. I mean, it's still going to feel like an overpay for Daniel Jones, but that's just what the quarterback market is nowadays. He had a solid year, probably low 30s per year, if anything, if they don't just tag him. But they're probably just going to tag him if we're being honest. So we will see what happens with Daniel Jones, but good to see that he's not completely insane. A few quick hitters here. So the Rams cut Bobby Wagner. This happened middle of last week. Just kind of another testament to the Rams going the wrong direction right now. I still expect a somewhat bounce back from the Rams just because they're bringing back their core next year, assuming that Stafford's healthy, Kupp's healthy, Aaron Donald's coming back, Sean McVay's coming back. I think the Rams will be okay.
Did Sean McVay actually say he was coming back? Did I miss that?
I don't believe it was official, but I think
shortly
after the Super Bowl, it seemed like he wasn't, wasn't keeping. When he lost a few of his assistants, people were wondering, and then he was like, "No, I'm coming back," but I wanted to let those guys off the hook because I wasn't sure myself. But it does seem like he's coming back.
He's coming back. Okay, cool. Because I've been trying to follow that, trying to figure out have we made a decision yet? And then he decided he wasn't going to combine, and so I was like, is that a subliminal sign, or you just want a break? Which makes sense. Yeah. I kind of feel like that was a mercy kill for Wagner.
You think so?
Nobody agreed with me though. I do.
Really?
I think that they were just kind of like, hey, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go make a name for yourself somewhere else because it's not going to be here. Freed up a lot of cap space, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Rams are kind of trying to rebuild some things here. It feels like the Rams are trying to rebuild without rebuilding, right? Because they do have all these star players still coming back, but actively shopping Jalen Ramsey and getting rid of Bobby Wagner. It's like, okay, they know that the roster as it is, even when healthy, may not be enough to win the Super Bowl. So they're just kind of moving some pieces around, freeing up some cap space. We'll see what they end up doing. But I do think the Rams still have a bounce back in their bones, even if they're getting rid of some of these brand names right now.
I think it might be a rough year, but I'm excited to
see
how that plays out. Yeah,
that division is going to be a fun one to follow too, with just the Niners and their quarterback situation, and the Cardinals and their new coach, and the Seahawks with Geno, and possibly, they have a lot of draft picks to try and help him out too, thanks to the Broncos sending them all over. So we will see how the Seahawks can bolster their squad as well after a really good draft this past year. This one I thought was exciting. There's going to be a new quarterback series on Netflix featuring Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. They've apparently been mic'd up for basically most of the year, and I think, look, these Netflix series rarely disappoint, in my opinion. Like the ones that try and give you a deeper look into sports, it feels like they're a pretty high hit rate.
Yeah, they've done one on Formula One. They've done one on tennis, and then I watched one on golf, and it was really interesting.
I watched a lot of Full Swing this past weekend, actually, yesterday.
It's good, isn't it?
It's really good, and it gives a lot of personality to golfers that you wouldn't necessarily know. I don't watch golf tournaments all that often. I mean, I'll watch the majors occasionally, but I think I looked up the world golf rankings and I read these names, and you start to put these personalities to these names. It's really cool. I saw Matt Fitzpatrick's name before watching Full Swing, and I was like, I don't know who that is. And then I see that he's just the most analytical, crazy, but also introverted dude. I was like,
almost OCD.
Lit. Yeah, I was like, this is lit. The personalities of everyone. You got Joel Damon, who's just I don't care, I'm not that good, but he's also is good and just doesn't believe in himself. I don't know. Enough about golf. I recommend you guys watch it on Netflix, though. It's really good. And if this series about quarterbacks is anything close to that, which I assume it will be, it's going to be great. And I also, they couldn't have predicted this, or maybe they could have, but the spectrum of quarterbacks that's going to be focused on in this series is going to be awesome. You've got Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, who won the MVP in the Super Bowl.
And they followed him through it was through the whole season. So they followed him through the Super Bowl, which is going to be cool to see. Yeah,
you've got Kirk Cousins, who is got the goofy dad personality, was on an overachieving team this year who made the playoffs. But overall, I think Kirk Cousins was probably mostly happy with his season. And then you've got Marcus Mariota, who was on a Falcons team that did win more games than we expected, but he was bad and got benched. So you're going to see the full gamut of kind of outcomes of quarterbacks, even though they only followed 3 guys. So I'm really excited. It's something I'm definitely looking out for, and probably have to hit it with a little review on here when it finally comes out.
I'm down for it.
So that will be exciting. Watch out for that. Netflix does not tend to disappoint with these things.
I'm really excited to see this, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. XFL, real quick, want to touch on it again. I just wanted to give some props to AJ McCarron. So, AJ McCarron with another big comeback in the XFL. I'm sure a lot of you remember him from his days at Alabama. And I'm just happy for this guy. He said, he chose to play in the XFL over a backup job in the NFL because he wanted his kids to see him play. Now he's kind of showing out. And again, I don't know that the hype of the XFL is going to go away. I mean, I'm not still tuning into it very often, but it's getting me to wonder a little bit. It's starting to get there. You got Ben DiNucci as the passing leader. You got Kalen Ballage as actually the rushing leader. Some of these names that you'll recognize, it's interesting. And but AJ McCarron being kind of the main storyline of the XFL so far, he is showing out, and it just makes me wonder: is he going to find his way back to the NFL at some point? So,
well, do you think that's actually going to happen, though?
I mean, I don't know. How old is AJ McCarron? Because
that's why I feel like he's like 29.
AJ McCarron he's 32, actually.
Oh.
So he's 32. If he's saying he's doing this so that his kids can watch him play, it might be a get this out of his system thing, because then it's like, okay, my kids have watched me play. Maybe I'll go back to the NFL now and maybe get a slightly more serious look. You've got some of these quarterbacks that end up starting games at the end of the year are atrocious. So AJ McCarron's name floating around after a successful year in the XFL would not surprise me in the least. Same with Ben DiNucci. Like, Ben DiNucci was just recently in the NFL. So would not surprise me. But for now, just enjoy the magic that AJ McCarron is bringing to these XFL games, because I don't think anybody predicted.
I want to get you an AJ jersey, an XFL.
An AJ McCarron Battlehawks jersey. I'd rock the hell out of that. I'm just telling you right now.
Okay, the one critique that I have for the XFL is they've got to do better with their graphics for their team mascots. It's bad.
Yeah,
like, the helmets are bad, the jerseys are bad. Under Armour's got to fix that.
It's pretty bad. When it all kind of comes together in one offseason, I'm not shocked. I mean, some of the names are holdovers from the XFL when they tried to relaunch in 2020 and then they got COVIDed to death. But
yeah,
it's not great.
It's very like either Gridiron or The Longest Yard remake.
Yeah.
Where they're like jailhouse jersey in it.
Yeah, it's not the best, but the rest of the XFL in general.
Yeah, it's great. And enjoy watching it when I do.
For sure. As always, we will finish off with some viewer questions. This one from, I believe it's pronounced Agent Ray. What's a weird player you absolutely love? Example, I love Randall Cobb. This is a fun one for me. Maddie, who's a random player, weird player, I guess, that you absolutely love?
There's so many weird players in the league. Is this like current or?
Could be anything.
You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with Isaac Cooch. Isaac, his real name's Rochelle.
Oh my God, Isaac Rochelle.
Yeah, big fan of his wife's on TikTok. But he just shows so much of his life that I'm like, good for you. You are an NFL influencer, and I didn't know that existed. And it's not in an annoying way the way Juju does it. So I'm going to go with Isaac Rochelle Cooch.
All right. That's a good pick, man. Who am I going to pick here? I honestly have no idea. I'm trying to think. Weird player. Hard. Who are my Patriot players I used to love that ended up not doing anything or were pretty good? You know what? For the people, I'll just say Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. That's my guy. I feel like his name comes up a lot because it's still one of the funniest names to ever grace the NFL. But I remember Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, seeing him kind of before he blew up. It was actually my first NFL game of any sort. It was a Patriots preseason game, I think against the Giants, the year that Ben Jarvis Green Ellis broke out. And he was playing really well. I was like, who the hell is this guy?
How you remember that is insane.
Yeah, I remember this too. The Giants won on a game-winning field goal. So I'll have to look up what game exactly this was. I just remember watching Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, not knowing who he was before the game, after the game being like, that dude is a truck, and he proceeded to be a truck for the Patriots for a few years. So Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, that's my guy.
I love the Randall Cobb pick too. That was such a good one to kick it off with.
Randall Cobb will be a good one, especially looking back, because it's just like slot receiver who had a crazy, really, really good peak and then just kind of fell off, but was always Aaron Rodgers' best little buddy. So that's a good question. I love ones like that. And then finally, last pick in the draft, who is Mr. Irrelevant? God. I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's, here's the thing. We all know this is an absolute shot in the dark no matter what you do. Nobody's going to be able to predict it. But let's see. I want to see who has the last pick, first of all. As of right now. There will probably be a billion trades that go into it. I'm not even sure if it'll tell me because the ESPN like draft tracker is just such a mess. You know what? Here, I'll throw a name at you. I'll throw a quarterback at you. Oh, this might not be far down enough. Man, this website has Stetson Bennett as the 291st overall player. I hate that.
Oh.
I think he's getting picked before that. I don't know where, but I don't know, man. You may have stumped me. You're asking me to give you like the 270th best player in the
Maybe
draft.
Can we circle back on that? Can we?
Yeah. Let's circle back on this. We'll get a little more into draft stuff, but we'll circle back and give you a better answer because for right now,
I'm stumped.
Yeah, I'm stumped as well. I appreciate the question. Look, I'll tell you this much: whoever it is probably not ever going to be relevant because we've used up all of our relevancy on Brock Purdy. Like the universe put all of its relevancy for the Mr. Irrelevant pick into Purdy. Everything that was left over from, I think was it Robbie Gould, who was also Mr. Irrelevant, like the only other semi-successful Mr. Irrelevant. It's a kicker, I know that. I think it was Robbie Gould. Those are the only two guys that have ever really been successful out of that spot. Doesn't happen very often. So we'll see. We'll throw a random name at you in a couple weeks here, maybe next week.
Give us some time. But that was a great question. That's the first time we've been stumped.
Yeah, absolutely a great question. So let us know any questions you guys have for next week. We love the random ones. We love the weird ones as we get deeper into the offseason. We appreciate them. So favorite weird player and possible Mr. Irrelevant are perfectly on the right track. One thing I do want to mention, we talked a little bit about college basketball off the bat. I am going to start an off the bench March Madness pool. I got the email today that ESPN has opened up their pool. So whether we do it on there or Yahoo or CBS or wherever we decide, we are going to be doing that. So keep an eye out. And then who knows, maybe we'll toss a few heavy gift cards to the top 3 or top 5 winners or so. So guys, be on the lookout for that. We got some good stuff in our little shop.
Remember Brand's advice. You just have to pick the winner. That's all you have to do. You
just have to pick the winner. It's really not that hard, guys. Like I'm 2 for 2 in the last 2 years. We don't have to talk about what I did before those 2 years, but the last 2 years, it's a great sample size. I'm 100%. I'm batting 1,000. So just pick the winner. Simple.
Just pick the winner. I do have some housekeeping. We are trying very hard not to have to bog you guys down with like all the ads and all the boring stuff that nobody actually wants to listen to. So we have a cool site that we're launching. But if you like to watch us, go ahead. I'm going to drop the link on Twitter when we tweet this out. We'll do it on Instagram. But go to that website and watch our video on there because it will help us out a lot and it's going to help us from having to like bog you guys down with ads.
Yeah, absolutely. We may, eventually integrate 1 or 2 or whatever, but it helps us not have to, have too many and take away from the listening experience. So if you guys can support in that way, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, unless you all want to know like what me and Brand use to shave our faces, then
clearly whatever I'm using isn't working. Got a little razor burn going on here because I broke my razor and one of the blades just spins wrong now. So I threw that one out and got a different one.
No. Oh my God, that's terrifying.
It wasn't, well, here's the thing. It wasn't like noticeable. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's spinning wrong. So it cut me. When I first got it, I opened up the package and the way I opened it, it dropped on the floor. And I was like, well, everything still spins. And there's 2 other blades. It was one of the triple, 2 other blades are spinning fine. And so I was using it. And then, now I'm just red and it hurts. And I've got a new one. So I'll look less like somebody punched me in the neck, hopefully in a few weeks here. But yeah, look, I can tell you what razor I'm using now, but not until we get paid for it. So
Bye, guys.
All right. See you guys next time.